In this lesson, we're going to give you 5 tips for mentoring. Now, this is kind of a bonus lesson in our mentor training series. In the first couple lessons, the first few lessons, you learned about sort of the philosophy of mentoring, why mentoring disciple making is so important, why you're called to do it. Hopefully you've grasped that and you understand what this is all about, and you learn those principles for mentoring. And then in the last lesson, you talked about just some real practical next steps for getting into mentoring. So whether you've got a mentoring relationship going or you're still sort of getting ready to start mentoring with someone, this lesson will be really helpful just to give you just 5 initial tips for mentoring. Now, there are a lot more tips for mentoring. You can find those tips online. Just check the lesson resources in this lesson and you'll see some links for how to find some of those tips for mentoring, and even how to share some of your own tips for mentoring, because really what we want to do is we want mentors to help each other, to use our resources, to share best practices and that sort of thing. But let me just start off with 5 tips that we think will be really helpful for you to understand when you're getting into mentoring, if you've already gotten into it. Here's the first tip. The best way to start is to start. Now, I know maybe you're like, that's so dumb. What a stupid first tip that is, but it really is true. Like, if you haven't yet started mentoring someone, I know exactly how you feel. You've been through 4-5 weeks of this training now, and you're probably thinking, man, I'm not ready for this. It just doesn't seem natural or whatever. But just like anything in life, maybe you remember when you're in junior high, you're nervous when you're getting into junior high. But your parents, if they were good parents, they probably said, go, and they forced you to go, and they made you go, right? It's the same way in mentoring. If you've never done it before, it might seem a little strange or out of the box or whatever. You kind of got to put yourself out there. You just got to start. You just got to get out there and do it. Find that person that you identified in the last lesson or that small group of people and just start doing it. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay. They're going to make mistakes. It's okay. It's not going to be perfect every single time. But try to keep it simple and take that leap of faith and step out there, and you're never going to know how impactful this is going to be on your life and on someone else's life until you just start. So the best way to start is to start. Put yourself out there. Start doing it. Here's the second tip. You really have to make it a practical priority. Mentoring is a discipline, much like other spiritual disciplines. Reading the Bible, praying, going to church, fasting, whatever. Like, these are spiritual disciplines. Mentoring is a spiritual discipline. And so you have to be very intentional about it. You have to choose to do it. For me, I spend time mentoring probably 3 to 4 to 5 hours a week in different scenarios, in small groups, in one-on-one mentoring relationships, and small group relationships. And I don't look at it as a nuisance in my life. It is some of the most important hours in my week. Like, I have to specifically decide not to watch that TV show or this other TV show or start this hobby or whatever. Mentoring is that important to me, and I'm that intentional about it. I carve out time from my schedule because what we find to be important, we're going to make time for. So if you really believe this, I do. I believe that this is the most important thing you can do in your life, is to mentor somebody. And the next most important thing you can do in your life is to mentor somebody else. I really believe that's true. I think that's why Jesus told his disciples, one of the last things he said to them is, go make disciples, because he saved the best, most important thing for last. But you have to be intentional about it. You have to make it a discipline in your life, or you're never going to do it, or you're never going to get good at it. So be intentional, carve time out. That's a great tip. Here's another tip. Never give up. One of the greatest tricks of the enemy is to discourage you. I know this is true in pastoral ministry, and this is true in mentoring and disciple making. You're going to be discouraged because of your own life or because of the person you're trying to help. They're not taking it seriously, or they're not advancing as quickly as you thought. Never give up. Don't be discouraged. Just keep moving forward. This isn't a perfect science. Like a friend of mine says, discipleship is messy. It is. It's messy. Mentoring is messy. It's not going to all go according to plan, but don't ever give up on the greatest thing that you can do in your life. Look at what it says in Galatians chapter 6. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. And that's really a description of mentoring, right? I mean, we've used that verse to describe that's what mentoring is. It's one believer helping another believer back onto the right path, helping them to grow in their relationship with God, helping them to live to honor God in their life and practical areas of faith and life, speaking truth and love to them so that they can apply it in their own life, right? That's what mentoring is all about. But look at what it says later on in verse 9 in that same chapter. It says, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. I love that. I love that passage. That's chapter 6 of Galatians is a great mentoring chapter because it sort of captures that idea of don't give up. Don't give up on this. Keep moving forward. Keep helping people. Don't you know that Satan knows the greatest thing you can do with your life is to help someone else pursue God? So he's going to throw every obstacle in your way to keep you from moving forward. He's going to want to get you to quit. Don't let him win. Don't quit on this. Never give up. Here's the next tip. Mentor people until they become mentors themselves, and then you become their coach. Now, you might not use this tip till a little bit later on in your mentoring relationship, but a real natural question is, well, like, how long should I do this? How long should I mentor somebody? Is this like a 10-year commitment that I'm making? It's not. It's several months, maybe a couple of years kind of a commitment. But eventually, once they become a mentor, once you sort of release them, bring them through mentor training themselves and help them to become a mentor, you then, in essence, what happens is your relationship shifts in their life and you become their coach. Now, it doesn't mean you're not still mentoring them. It probably means in many cases that you're not spending as much time pouring into them week to week because they're spending a lot of time pouring into other people. And this is really important because remember in Foundations Truth 3, we say that we grow, we mature by helping others. And specifically, we're talking about mentoring others, helping them pursue God. So if you want them to really grow, don't keep them under your thumb. Don't keep mentoring them. If you really want them to grow, you have to release them to mentor someone else. But you don't release them unless you train them up or they're going to get frustrated. So bring them through mentor training and release them to mentor someone else. And you watch now as they grow. You watch now as they mature, as they're helping somebody else, just like you matured by helping them. And then your relationship with them, you're still their mentor, but a mentor of a mentor, we call that a coach. A coach is still a mentor, but it's a mentor of a mentor, which means you're coaching them in not just in their own life, you're helping mentor them in their own life, but you're also sort of an advisor for them as they mentor somebody else. And it's a rewarding thing for you. That's when you think about it like this. The person you mentor is like your son or daughter in the faith. But when they mentor someone, you have a grandson or a granddaughter in the faith. And when the person they're mentoring mentors someone else, you have a great-grandson. This is like the downline of generational replicating mentoring ministry is if you do it right and make sure that you use these tools to do it right, then you pass that on to the next person, they pass it on to the next person, and your influence begins to go exponential. And here's the last tip. Anchor your mentoring to systematic tools. Now, what we mean by that is continue to use the systematic tools. In our library, it's topics and series. Those two things are part of our library. Hopefully you know all about those by now. But the reason it's so important to anchor those things to your mentoring and use those tools in mentoring rather than just doing whatever comes to mind is because it makes it more reproducible. If you are not making it mysterious how you're mentoring the person you're helping, then it won't be mysterious to them when they mentor someone else. I'm not saying that you don't have some other great resources outside of the system. That might be true. But if you anchor your mentoring to system tools, it'll make it easier for them to go on and mentor others. Take a football example for this. Let's say that there's a football team that's really successful and they have their system. And so some star quarterback comes onto their team and he comes in and he was successful somewhere else, but now he comes into your system and your structure and all of the team, all your coaches, all your players, you already know your system and it works for you and it's successful for you. And this all-star comes in and says, well, I've got my own system. And this guy tries to be a starting quarterback on your team using his system, his terminology, his language, his plays, his playbook from the other team. And they might be good, but they're not part of the system that the team he's on right now. So it's not going to be helpful for the team. It's going to be disruptive. It's going to be sideways. That's why system tools are so important. That's why we've created these tools at PursueGOD.org. If you're going to be discipling, if you're using this in your small group or in your church or in your own personal mentoring ministry, if you can stick with system tools that are clear and easy to use and ever expanding and comprehensive, which is what the Pursue God tools are with the topics and the series, and learn how to use those tools and keep it simple, and then teach the other people that you're mentoring, your family, the people in your small group, the people in your church, the people in your own mentoring downline, teach those people those same tools. It can really replicate and it can continue to pass on. But if you try to get super creative or break out of the system and use your own thing and make it complicated, it might still be good, but it's complicated and therefore it doesn't really become viral. Then you're not going to have as great of an impact as you can have. So we really encourage you to use system tools, and be sure to check out in the lesson resources some tips on how to use tools, and share your own tips on how to use our tools so that you can impact other mentors as well. So those are 5 practical tips, and check out those other resources for many, many more practical tips. And now I think you really can be ready to go on and begin mentoring people in your life and make an impact and change the world.